going to a diabetic?
Diabetic place because of my eyes.
Cause you're what?
On my eyes.
Uh-huh.
So I know what foods and what they food and all that. I got this nothing,
Well, how'd the appointments go for your feet? You're going tomorrow? You haven't been back yet since last week? Okay.
But you can see my screws on the side coming out. And right here. My whole foot was broken to pieces.
And the screws are coming out?
And I had screws and I got plates. But they took my bars out of my toes. And I said, okay.
Well, I hope. So are they gonna take the screws out, or they're gonna replace them, or they're gonna screw them back in, or what? Hope they take them out.
Yeah, because at the bottom, it hurts when I walk.
Are you gonna be able to walk without it?
They took out a bunch before.
Mm-hmm.
I got more screws in hardware store, so I even got a piece of floor from my big toe to my
Mm-hmm.
ankle. Inside my foot.
Well,
He said the man didn't fix it right.
he said the person who put them in didn't do it right?
No, it's the man, no, they didn't.
Huh?
This is my third surgery if I have to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know it's gonna work out. I know they've got the medicine that they have nowadays and the practices that they have. They should be able to help in a lot.
See, I got 2 scars on top and I got 6 on top.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I got some cloth shoes, but they still hurt.
Huh?
I've gotten some cloth shoes, but it still hurts. So no problem with it.
Hmm.
But my sugar is not bad enough for no diabetes. Like Layne type 2.
Mm-hmm.
The type 1 don't make it.
Well, I think we're gonna work out. It's gonna work out. Jack back there has to get special shoes too, cause he got diabetes. So yeah, but he's lucky. He doesn't have to pay for them. He got veterans assistance.
Well, you just call the shoes down to me.
Let's see. I think we finished up chapter 20, and we were talking about the showbread last time. Remember? Now, why was it important in chapter 21? Oh, before we get started, Jack, do you want to start us off with a prayer? Go ahead. Yeah. No, he stands for every prayer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the life that you give us. We thank you, Father, for your Son. We pray that you will help us to guide us and strengthen us, that we might always do thy will. Amen.
So, chapter 21 of 1 Samuel. So we were talking about how David came to this priest, right? And the priest was telling him how he would let David partake of the showbread, right? But who was the showbread for?
The priest. It was for the temple, tabernacle.
Now, was David a priest?
No,
So what's interesting about that?
that he got to eat it.
Mm-hmm. So that's a sorry, I'm trying to scroll to the chapter 21 here. So
Greatest respect was shown toward David to allow him to eat it.
now, did it come with some conditions?
Yes,
What was one of the conditions?
that they had to be withheld from women for at least 5 days.
Yeah, like 3 to 5 days, right? Now, is that a problem for David?
Not for David,
Why?
because he's been on the run.
Yeah, when's the last time he saw his wife?
It's been a while.
And at this point, he's only got the one
The
wife.
one wife, yeah.
Yeah, which is named,
Michael,
right. So, daughter of,
Saul,
brother of,
Jonathan.
how is Jonathan related to, what is his relationship with David?
My best
Best
friend.
friend. Okay, and brother-in-law, yeah,
And
but
brother-in-law.
best friend, brother-in-law. knitted so closely that they basically share the same soul. It's basically the sentiment that we got. Okay, so 21. Let's finish up chapter 21. Look at verse 2. Somebody read verse 2 of chapter 21.
And David said unto Amalek the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee. And what I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to do such and such a place.
Now, is that true or not? David is saying the king gave him a specific thing to do, but is that true or not? And how do we know?
It's not true, he's running for his life.
From
The king.
from the king. So this priest is allowing David and whoever's with he's allowing David, what did you say, David, to eat this showbread. And one of the conditions is that you must be pure, so pure that you can't even have been with your wife for the past 3 days. That's how pure you're supposed to be. And David's like, okay, yeah, I got that requirement met. I haven't been with my wife for a while now. So, but yet he's willing to lie to eat this bread. So,
Maybe he was hungry.
huh?
Maybe he was hungry.
Yeah. But it's interesting that he's willing to lie about his intentions here. He told Ahimelech, which is the name of the priest, that the reason he was alone was because he had sent his soldiers to another place and that they would meet there. That's not true. Next, David asked for food, but the priest did not have any common food available. All he had was the bread, which had been removed from the tabernacle, the showbread. This bread was baked once a week, and on the Sabbath day it was replaced by fresh loaves. Did they have did they have the same type of bread making system that we have today?
No.
Where we could just get some cheap materials and just throw it together and make
They had ovens and stuff, but not the
Yeah.
qualifications that we've had.
And did they have just cheap materials that they could get anywhere, or did they actually have to work for this stuff?
They had to work for it.
Right.
And they had to grind the wheat and everything.
And where'd they get the wheat?
They-
Grow it themselves, right? So they got to go out, work for this stuff. And how often is this bread baked?
Once a week.
Right. And now this is special bread. This is, good stuff. This is the high quality stuff. Do you think? So what does that tell you about the other bread that everybody else, common food, basically? It's supposed, it lasts longer than a week generally. And so, can you imagine that? So David has a chance to eat some good food here, but he's lying about his intentions of being there. So it's interesting. Now look what it says in Leviticus 24 verses 5 through 9. It's talking about showbread. Leviticus 24 5 through 9. I'll read.
Is it 24:9 you said?
Yeah, Leviticus 24, chapter 24, verses 5 through 9. And listen to this. Remember how we were talking about the quality of the food? It says, And thou shalt take fine flour, and bake 12 cakes thereof. 2 tenth deals shall make 1 cake, and thou shalt set them in 2 rows, 6 in a row, upon the pure table before the Lord. And thou shalt put pure frankincense upon each row. You know what, Amanda? We should have brought the frankincense. Yeah, and we have a little bottle of frankincense oil, and because we have a couple of different oils, and that we got in a little sample pack. I'll try to remember to bring that next time. We can actually see, you guys can actually smell what frankincense is. But anyway, and thou shalt put pure frankincense upon each row, that it may be on the bread for a memorial, even an offering made by fire unto the Lord. Every Sabbath he shall set it in order before the Lord continually, being taken from the children of Israel by an everlasting covenant. And it shall be Aaron's and his sons. Who's Aaron? this is Leviticus now. So,
He was high priest,
yeah. And so, and he was brother of.
brother Moses.
Right. Every Sabbath he shall set it in order. Oh, wait, hold on. And it shall be Aaron's and his sons, and they shall eat it in the holy place. Now, is that exclusively just for Aaron and his immediate sons, or is that talking about the Levitical priesthood?
The Levitical priesthood.
Right. So that's why all the way down here in Samuel, this is still applicable here. All these years later. For it is most holy unto him of the offerings of the Lord made by fire, by a perpetual statute. So, we see here, talking about the showbread, was this supposed to be done just off the cuff, just last minute, just whatever? Just, make some stuff and put it on the table?
This is planned.
Yeah. And is it detailed? How detailed is it?
Quite detailed.
I mean,
it showed right here how detailed it was.
Yeah.
It's got to be done such and such with such and such.
mm-hmm. And it says, make how many rows? Was it 2 rows?
Leviticus chapter
And
24.
and you got, it tells you what to do.
5:14.
It tells you what to do, how to arrange it, what to put, like how to make it, and even it even goes into details about having this pure oil, this pure frankincense. Which you guys remember in the New Testament when the three men came and visited Jesus as a child, and they brought different,
They brought the 3 gifts.
Yeah, 3 gifts. Now, what was one of those gifts?
Frankincense.
Frankincense and myrrh. Now, is frankincense a cheap oil?
No.
I don't know how they make it or what they get it from exactly, but it's not cheap. But go ahead, and then Frank.
I know the scent. I know it's scent and coconut scent. It could be strawberry scent, but the oil is probably from different animals. Because we call it has to be made like that.
Maybe, I'll need to look into. I'm going to
What
try to
would
remember
have to
that.
be? It wouldn't, because they're people just like we are,
Gotcha,
Because it was a gift from God, to them to take
gotcha.
We had a class back there, it was on my little commentary that, Sister Jones sent me. I brought it to class, but I said that, I think.
Well, I'll try to look that up. Frank, you had your hand up. So
We had class, and I always thought frankincense was money.
yeah.
And Sister Betty pointed out to me that it was a spice or oil.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always assumed it was money.
Yeah.
It sounds like money. Frankincense,
Yeah. It does. Especially thinking about what was the old German money called, Jack?
Franks.
Mm-hmm. You've been to Germany, haven't you? Did they have francs when you were there, or did they have Reichs, or what did they have? What was the German money back when? It was a while ago, wasn't it? Now they have the euro. They're part of the European Union, so they use the euro. So they did away with all their other stuff. So that I know of, but.
My brother was over there back in the earlier '60s, and it was called Frank Sin because he was sending them to us.
Yeah.
I've got some at home.
Mm-hmm. Can't remember the name. Yeah, that's all right. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out sometime. All right. Well, let's see. Let's continue on here. Ahimelech said back in 1 Samuel 21. Ahimelech said that the men could have the bread if they had kept themselves from women. The point here was that they had to be ceremonially clean. One of the conditions for being ceremonially clean was not to have intercourse with one's wife for a certain period. Exodus 19:15 is where you see this at. He said unto the people, "Be ready against the 3rd day. Come not at your wives." 19:15. Exodus 19:15. David declared that they had been away from their women for 3 days. He further stated that the bread would be sanctified by the vessel in which it would be placed. The human body, talking about, when he consumed it. When considering the actions of the high priest here in light of what Jesus said in Matthew 12:3-4, it would appear that he looked upon this as an act of mercy, the priest. In the text in Matthew chapter 12, the Jews attacked Jesus' disciples because they ate grain with their unwashed hands. Jesus, here in Matthew 12, pointed out that if they attacked them, if these Pharisees were going to attack these Jews for eating and the disciples for eating with unclean hands, if they were going to attack them for doing that, why didn't they say anything about David eating the showbread at all? Like, this is a New Testament. This is Jesus saying, "Hey, you Pharisees are so by the book, quote unquote. Why? And you guys are going to attack these people because they're hungry and they haven't washed their hands? Okay, well, why didn't you say anything about David eating the showbread? He wasn't supposed to eat it at all." And you guys remember who are the superheroes of the Jewish people? Who are some of the superheroes? You got Abraham
I say David.
and Moses and David, right? And these guys are like, if they could build a room full of like a hall of fame dedicated to the heroes of their faith, you think those guys would be right there, So for Jesus to tell these Pharisees who are so by the book, quote unquote, that they have literally gone past the law of God and created their own rules, that's how intense they've gotten. That's what he's trying to show them right now, how bad they've gotten, by referring back to what we're studying here in 1 Samuel. He's like, well, if it's bad for them, then why is it not bad for David? If it's bad for these people today to do this, then why don't you say anything about David doing the same thing back then? Because he's one of your superheroes? Basically he's calling them out. He's like, if you continue to attack my disciples about this, then you're going to be guilty of being a hypocrite by not calling David out on it.
Just like that eating meat, ain't
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see.
The priest, son of David, was telling the truth.
Yeah. And he's trying to. He's trying to help him out. You see that, right? Like, because who was the showbread for?
Priest.
The Levitical priesthood, right? Originally, it was back in Leviticus 24. It was told, this is for Aaron and his sons, who would, this is, the priesthood. And you're right. This priest Ahimelech is seeing David come in. He's hungry, he's tired, he's worn out, and he's willing to give him food to keep him alive. But David told him a lie about his intentions, and so that's interesting.
Do you think Amalek knew why he was so hungry?
Huh?
Would you think Amalek might have a clue that why he was hungry?
I don't know. He might have been, this might be the case of him asking him, hey, I've got some food for you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And then David telling him, oh yeah, the king sent me. Yeah, we've been, me and my army and all that. We've been traveling and all that.
So
Either way, David was not honest about his intentions, and so.
That's not his last.
Hmm?
That's not one of David's last downfall.
Right.
It's leaving.
Right. He's gonna slip up even worse later on, isn't he? But we're getting there. Okay, so in both cases, the men were hungry. Talking about Matthew chapter 12, where Jesus is calling out the Pharisees for calling out the disciples. So in that case, the men were hungry, the disciples were hungry, and in this case, in 1 Samuel, David was hungry, and they needed sustenance. They needed something to keep them going, and both were filled by partaking of the food that was available, right? It makes sense. If you're hungry, what do? You eat. What if you don't have any food for days? Then what are you going to do when the first time you see food? You're going to eat it.
Gorgeous.
I mean, we've seen accounts through history of. You guys remember in World War II? You guys remember studying about or hearing about the internment camps, the work camps? You guys remember hearing about the Jews and what they would do, and not just the Jews, the political prisoners, all the people in those camps, what they would do when they found a scrap of food, when they would bring the food trucks in. Yeah, they're one big happy family, today, and they're trying to build each other up and get through and keep each other alive. But then what happened when the food trucks came? They run over on top of each other to get to that food, wouldn't they? They'd hit each other with a rock just to knock each other down or kill them, and so that they could get the food. They would wait for somebody else to do all the fighting and wear themselves out and get the bag of potatoes, and somebody would wait on the the outskirts of the group, and they'd run in and tackle the guy and take the bag of food from him. And by that time, the guy with the bag is worn out already. And so, you see what people will do for food? That's what I'm getting at. And people will do whatever it takes to get food, right? Sometimes. And so that's what we'll see here. David's even willing to lie to a priest about this to get food. Go ahead.
I've talked to people that were in them concentration camps. I've talked to prisoners of war, work with them, talked to them. They said they'd eat anything if they could let them in. And it wasn't choice, they eat anything. That's hunger.
Do you guys remember John McCain ran for president back in 2008 against Obama? I remember people, other POWs, prisoners of war, talking about him, and whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I'll choose to believe it, because why else would they lie? They said that while him and the other guys were imprisoned, they would see a rat.
Yeah.
Disgusting creature. I mean, rats in and of themselves can be nice. Like a pet rat. Amanda and I have even thought about getting a pet rat one day because they're clean, they're smart. But you think about a sewer rat, a disgusting vermin, just running around, eating on dead stuff all the time. I mean, it's just disgusting. And would a hungry person in jail grab that thing and eat it like? Can somebody in a prisoner of war, can a POW just make a campfire in the middle of their cell and cook that thing?
Right there.
They just rip it apart and eat it raw, right? So people will do strange things for food, right? And so who cares if these disciples were, in the New Testament, they were hungry. Who cares if they didn't wash their hands? Who cares? That's what he's saying here. And then but take this back to 1 Samuel and apply it back then. We can't say who cares about David. Who cares? He told a lie to get his food. We should care. We shouldn't sacrifice our morals for our physical, necessities, right? So there's that. But we got to move on if we're going to get through chapter 22 today. In David's case, the law was violated. I should have said this earlier. One of the preachers that I met this past week, his name is Bob Knox. He's it was really strange. He and I had a conversation with each other for over an hour, just me and him, and Trey was sleeping. He and I had a really great conversation, and we realized that he and I were very, very similar in a lot of ways, kindred spirits. And he ended up giving me all of his commentaries, every single commentary he's written through all of his years of studying. He actually gave me all of them, a copy of all of them for free. And so that's what I'm using today, is I'm using his commentary on 1 Samuel. So if you guys like some of this, I can probably try to get you a copy. So, but he's very, very thorough. And you guys see he brings in, every single time a law is mentioned, he brings it in. Like we've already read from Leviticus and Exodus already, and we've just gone through a few verses. So anyway, so I just wanted to let y'all know this isn't all coming from Layne. I'm referencing this a lot. So okay, so in David's case, God's law was violated. In the second case, the New Testament, no God-given law had been violated. You guys remember how the Pharisees were taking every little bit of the scriptures, and if God gave an inch, they would make it into a mile, right? Unless it pertained to them, right? In which case, God said a mile and they go the inch, right? Anyway, that's a story for another time. Okay, now look at verses 7 through 9. Somebody read 1 Samuel 21, 7 through 9, and I'll be right back.
Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg, and an Edomite, chiefest of the herdsmen that belonged to Saul. And David said unto Amalek, and there is not here under thine hand spear or sword, for I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. And the priest said, the sword of Goliath, the Philistines, whom thou slewest in the valley of Elah, behold, is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If thou wilt take that, take it, for there is no other save that here. And David said, there is none like that, give it me.
Okay, so there's a brief mentioning of, starts with a D, Doeg, right? But it is one which had devastating results later. 4 things are said about this Doeg. Number 1, he was a servant of Saul. Number 2, he was detained before the Lord. Number 3, he was an Edomite. And who were the Edomites? We talked about this last time. They were the descendants of Esau, right? Right? You remember Esau and Jacob? Yeah. You remember Esau was they were twins. Esau was the angry one, the very physical one. He was red and hairy, and he was a hunter. And he gave up. He was the firstborn, and so he had the inheritance, but he gave up his inheritance for a bowl of soup. He was hungry. See, that takes us right back to people do strange, stupid things for food, right? This man had his entire inheritance and all of his children's inheritance. Everything. He had everything he needed in the world, and what did he give it up for? How long did that bowl of soup last on his stomach? A couple hours. You know, a moment on the tongue is, what is it, forever on the hips is what they say. You know, a moment on this man's tongue, you know, with this soup was forever for his inheritance.
How hungry have you been? How hungry have you ever been?
I went 4 days without eating one time.
These people we were talking about a while ago would, what would they give for a meal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
that would be so.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And God said how disappointed he was in him, that his people would be, what his people from, you know, every person that sprang from his loins was going to feel it. So anyway, so Doeg was an Edomite. He was detained before the Lord. He was a servant of Saul, and he was Saul's chief herdsman. He was a servant of Saul, recognized by David, and later he recalled his fear of Doeg at that time. David told another lie in asking for a weapon. It was true that he had not had time to gather his weapons before leaving. And when did he leave? Or how did he leave? When he started his running away? How did he leave?
He left in haste because Saul was looking for him.
Uh-huh.
Trying to throw a javelin at him.
And he walked away out of his front door in the middle of the day, right?
His wife lowered him down in the basket.
In the middle of the day, right?
In the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, that's right. Now I remember. I'm being facetious here, but so he would, if you're running for your life, you're being lowered down out of your own bedroom window by your spouse, in the middle of the night. Are you going to have enough time to just grab everything you want, including your weapons and armor? Okay. So David told another lie by asking for, when he asked for another weapon, because he didn't have time to get it. But it was not because the king's business required haste, which is what he told Ahimelech, right? He said, "Oh yeah, King sent me here. King sent me here. I'm on the king's business. I'm doing stuff for the king, Saul." Lie number 1, got him some food. Lie number 2, oh yeah, I need a weapon because it's going to help me with my business with the king, right? 2 lies already. David was told that the only weapon there was the sword of
Goliath.
which David had gladly taken before, right? You guys remember when we were going over, when my little brother was here, and we were like, David was probably about that size when he slew Goliath. He would be hitting his head on the ceiling, or hitting his head on that fan at least, And you guys remember back to that battle? How long did that last? It was like, what, 2 or 3 verses?
Yeah.
The whole fight, all of these chapters leading up to 2 or 3 verses. And really, it was just one verse that it took David to. How fast did David kill Goliath?
One stone.
Well, yeah, and then that knocked him down. Now, what did David have a sword?
I took Goliath's sword and
He ran up on him, and what did he tell Goliath he was going to do to him before the battle even started?
that he was going to take him and cut his head off.
Yeah. Can you imagine a little 12-year-old or younger or something like that, somebody less than 14 years old, coming up to you and saying, "Hey, you're a punk. You've been talking about my God. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to cut off your head, and I'm going to run around with it. I'm going to give your body to the beasts of the field, the vultures and the jackals, and all this stuff is going to eat your body." Can you imagine a kid telling you that? And actually, like, what would you do? You'd be like, okay. But then you go out there and you're like, wow, this kid just beamed me in the head with a rock. I am on the ground, and he's standing on top of me. Can you imagine what Goliath was thinking in that moment?
It wasn't fine.
And then he got his head cut off. So then he took the sword and gave it to because Goliath's sword would have been what to the Jews? Like,
It'd been a trophy.
yeah. And so they've had this thing just sitting there. So now David, he said he didn't want a sword earlier. And he's already used this sword once to kill Goliath, kill the person. He killed the man with his own sword. That's ironic. But he didn't keep it for himself, right? Because he didn't want it, right? But now look, his old friend, his old buddy, Goliath's sword makes a comeback. And now, so that's interesting. It's interesting how these things work out, isn't it? Okay, so let's read chapter 21, verses 10 through 15. Okay, who read last? Sharon? Okay, Jack, are you in 1 Samuel right now? Okay, can you read can you start reading in verse 10, and then Frank will do 11, and Amanda, are you ready? 21, and then you'll be verse 12. Yeah. Okay, whenever you're ready, Jack, verse 10.
And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to
Achish.
the king of Gath.
And the servants of Ash said unto him, Is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000?
And David laid up these words in his heart, and was sore afraid of Achish the king of Gath.
And he changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scrabbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard.
Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see the man is mad. Wherefore then have ye brought him to me?
Have I need of madmen that ye have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?
Okay, so now let's look at this. This is the end of chapter 21. Let's see. There's a commentator that historian. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. It's Zodhiates. Zodhiates, I guess. Tells us the words means this king. Word means a king, a ruler, a prince. So an official here. This Achish, and you guys see that word scrabbled in there? To scrabble is to limit or to mark or to set a mark. Okay? From this, where is Nob? Is this where, that's where we started this chapter at, right? This is where Ahimelech is at, right? So from Nob, he takes this sword, and he's got a full belly on showbread. David went to the city of Gath. It's interesting that he chose the very city of the man whose sword he carried. Because where was Goliath from?
Yeah.
Interesting, huh? Interesting. So the sword itself is going home. See, the king of this city was Achish, whom David apparently was going to see, possibly for the purpose of gaining asylum. So what's asylum?
Sanctuary.
Yeah. Permission to be there, right? After all, they had a common enemy. Who would be this king of these Gentiles, Achish, in the city of Gath, and David at this time? Who would they have that is against both of them?
Saul.
Now, does David want Saul as an enemy? Does he want to be enemies with Saul? No. How do we know? Kind of. I mean, he's been a faithful servant to who? David has been a faithful servant to two people. God first and Saul second. Why would he be faithful to the king?
Because he's God's chosen.
Right. And now David is God's chosen, because we remember the Spirit has departed from Saul, who is messed up, and he has come upon who? David. Even knowing all that he has, even David being anointed already, and being told, hey, you're going to be the next king. And he knows this. And he knows how bad the present king is. He has still been faithful to him, right? He's even tried to still play the harp and sing to him and calm him down, knowing that the king wants to pin him to the wall with a spear. That's a dedicated worker. But, that's a possibility that he's trying to capitalize on Achish's resentment towards Saul by trying to go make an alliance with him, right? Okay. But the men of... Huh?
Is spittle, is that spit?
Spittle. Let me check.
13 at the bottom. Scrabble on the door, let his spittle fall down upon his beard. Is it spit?
Maybe. Like foaming at the mouth type thing, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't want to say anything unless I'm sure, but it's a possibility. Let's see. Where was it? But the men of Gath quickly pointed him out as the man who Israel proclaimed as slaying his 10,000s. He had gained this recognition for killing who? And the Philistines, all these, like the rest of these. Who Okay, so David is now walking around in a Philistine city, in a Gentile city, an enemy, a common enemy of Israel. Has he ever, and we know he's had prior experience with them, what other experiences has David had with these Philistines? So he killed their giant. He's killed every single battle he's had with these people. He has killed them and defeated them. Killed. So there's no telling how many of their, their boys, there's no telling how many parents are looking out in the street and seeing this guy walk around like it's no big deal and saying, "He killed my boy." Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if somebody came in and just wiped out all of your people every single time your people went up to fight him? He just wiped them out with no problem. He's killed tens of thousands of your children and your soldiers and your husbands and your, all this stuff. And he has seriously caused a detriment to your people, murdered them, massacred. And then he just walks around in your city like there's no big deal. Plus, he's carrying the sword of your greatest warrior. What are you going to think? What are you going to think? Are you just going to be like, "Oh yeah, there goes David"? Or are you going to be like, "That's him. That's him"? That's what they're doing. See this renown that he had? He didn't cause this. He didn't do any of this stuff to be well known, did he? He didn't go out and battle all these people so that people could say, "Oh yeah, David's killed tens of thousands of people, while Saul's only killed thousands." He didn't do that for these reasons. He did it because he was faithful to God and faithful to his king. And that was just a happy side effect. But now, is it a happy side effect?
No.
Why?
Because it brought recognition to him.
He can't go anywhere. I mean, he's a celebrity. And here, it's not really a good thing. Because he's walking amongst his enemies, quote unquote, and he's there for a different reason. He's there to work with them. But what are they going to think?
And he's there to get them.
Yeah. I mean, he's wiped them out every single time he's been around them, and now he's right in the middle of them. I mean, that'd be scary. When David heard them talking, he realized that he was in danger, so he pretended to be insane. How many times you guys ever heard of those court cases where somebody clearly murders another person, or they were drunk, and they were driving at the same time, and they killed somebody, and then they get to the court case, and all their lives, the 20, the 30, the 40 years up until that court case, they've been completely sane, never been into an asylum at all, and then all of a sudden, court case gets dismissed. Why? Oh yeah, he pleaded for insanity. He's insane. He's certifiable. He's not right in the head. He's got to be watched. He's got to be on medication. He's insane. How many times have you guys ever heard of that? You see it in movies and TV all the time, don't you?
Yeah, but what if you kill somebody and your dad is the judge and your uncles are all and they tell you certain court date and you go to that day and then they throw it out.
Well, then that's their dishonesty.
So she got violent murder and she would never charge her with anything.
Then their sins will find them out, is what I have to say to that. We got to keep doing the right thing. And
yeah, but they're supposed to stand for the truth. Not
supposed to.
Folks.
Yeah.
If they can, they shouldn't be a judge and a lawyer for either one of them.
Yeah, that's a what do they call that? Personal conflict of interest. That's right. And I don't agree with that at all. Like, I agree with you. If there's going to be a conflict of interest, that should be thrown out. That's the word. That's the whole conflict of interest system.
You got money, everybody way out.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and I hate that. But it's the way it goes sometimes. But it's true. While we're on that subject, it's true that while we're here on earth, the righteous can be persecuted, and the unrighteous can benefit from earthly things. But where are we all going to go one day? We're all going to be in a courtroom in front of God. Who's going to be the judge? Who's going to be the lawyer? So, are we going to be able to hide evidence or bring new evidence in that nobody ever saw before? No, he's got it there waiting for us. So, their sins will find them out. if they don't fix their life and try to reconcile that situation with everybody that they've affected by it, if they don't even try, then that's on them. But you've got to hold your head up high. Excuse me. So David he realizes, oh, this might not have been a good idea. Whoops. So, how's he get out of it?
Plays the madman.
Plays madman. He appeared to be froth at the mouth, allowing his spit to run into his beard. So, because of this, Achish wanted nothing to do with David. So he went there to go see Achish, but now David's like, this plan is shot. So he pretends to be crazy, and so Achish is like, get this guy out of here. I don't want to see him. I have no use for a crazy person. Which makes his escape possible. There were people at this time who had superstitions about those who were insane. They felt that they were touched by the gods, quote unquote, and therefore they would not harm them. Many tribes of American Indians, this is from Bob Knotts, many tribes of American Indians felt the same way about those who were insane here. So, yeah, I think I remember seeing one of those old westerns. There were so many of them, I can't remember which show, if it was Bonanza or whatever, where the tribe, it might have been a movie, where
I've seen it very rare.
where if they see a crazy guy or somebody that was so drunk he was acting crazy, the natives would be kind of like, kind of back
I
off.
like the crazy woman creeping
Yeah.
Jeremiah Johnson.
Yeah, and so, we can, would we do, if we see somebody who is legitimately insane today, and we know that dude's running down the street with a straitjacket, and he's trying to bite things, are we going to go near him? I'm not going near him. If he comes after my family, I'll knock him to the ground and watch him roll around until the cops get there, but I'm not going to go near him. So that's the same thing. It's understandable why he would be able to escape, even though he's a huge enemy. Like, I kind of wonder if they were so scared of David because of his past and seeing him acting crazy. I'm kind of wondering if they were afraid to. I'm kind of leaning towards they were probably afraid of even trying to kill him. Because every single time they've tried to kill him, he's killed them. So. Anyway, so that was chapter 21. So let's read chapter 22. Okay. Let's read verses 1 through 2. All right, so Sharon, you're up.
David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave of Adullam, when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him.
Okay, Frank, you do too.
Everyone that was in distress, everyone that was in debt, everyone that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him. He became a captain over them, and there were with him about 400 men.
Okay, so we see this word Adullam, right? Or Adullam. This place was near the border between Philistia and Judah. And so this is, you guys remember when we talked earlier about why do the Philistines and the Israelites always fight? Well, it's because they're bordered. What do bordering nations, not so much today, but what do bordering nations throughout history, what do? They want to make that border, move a little bit, right?
Just like Mexico and the United States, they got a road
Mm-hmm.
go across and go across the wrong thing.
Right, and Texas, New Mexico, all that territory down there. What was that called during the U.S.-Mexican War, where we tried to take that territory, and then the Mexicans, they said, Spanish-American War. Yeah, they said, no, that's ours. And then we got into a big fight about it, and then we took Texas and New Mexico and all those southern states back, and we said, no, this is ours. This is ours. And then they tried, you guys remember the Alamo and all that? Yeah. Yeah. So we see that that's no different. You know, we see that this stuff in modern times. You know, that's why they would fight all the time. Plus, they were Jews and Gentiles. Anyway, so Adullam is a place near the border between the two, where there was rugged mountains, and it was an area where there are literally hundreds of caves. This is from the Kaufman commentary. The limestone cliffs. Blah blah blah. I'm not gonna get into all that. That's more Christian evidence stuff. Okay, you see the distress. The word distress. It's a word. It's a word meaning anguish. It refers to hardships and anxiety. So, and especially brought on from disobeying the Lord. So, we see distress, we see adullam, we see this other word, discontented, which is bitter or bitterness. After leaving Gath, so he went from Nob to Gath, and it didn't work out there, right? So in Nob, what did he do with Ahimelech? What did David do at Nob, the city of Nob, with Ahimelech?
He lied to him and got food.
Lied to him a couple times, got his food, and he got a sword, right? And where did he go after that?
Yeah.
Gath, city of
Goliath, the Philistines.
right. And who was in charge there?
Achish.
Yeah, Achish. And why was he there? Why would he even go straight into enemy territory?
Silent.
Yeah. And instead of finding a safe haven, I mean, I don't know. You got to wonder, was this guy, what was in that showbread for him to be thinking this way? But that didn't work out. So he acts like a madman, and he runs to Adullam. And so we see that he's going towards a place that's full of caves. Okay, David's family joined him there. Since David had been made an outlaw by the Israelites, his family probably had good reason to fear Saul's anger. At Adullam, a small army started to gather around David. It was made up of his family and those who were in distress, in debt, or discontented, who were bitter, right? So we can see we can see that Saul and his poor leadership is leading to people in the nation either being cast out or they're willingly walking out on him, right? And if the people don't like the king, and they do like another person, let's say a military hero, are they going to? Let's just apply that today. What's the president's approval rating? Has it gone over 50% in the last probably 4 years or more? Probably not. And if it has, it hasn't stayed there. Let's just say the current president is not too popular, but then we see a soldier who has been fighting in the war on terrorism, and he has taken out cell after cell after cell of terrorists. Here's a big head honcho in the Al-Qaeda. Well, this guy, he got taken out. Here's the next one that replaced him. Oh, he got taken out. Taken out. Can you imagine if you went back and you saw if there was a single soldier that was there at every single time, and then you looked at his record and he saved his own. Can you imagine that, Jack? If there's a soldier who goes to every single major battle and he's there and they win handily. They barely lose anybody. And you look at this soldier's record, and he's all the time saving his own allies, going in the thick of the bullets, flying, and the RPGs and mortars and everything. He just runs to the battlefield and he just takes everybody out. You think, and then you got a president that people don't like, but then people start looking at this soldier and they like that. They see that's a man who is dedicated. That is a man who is all about his job. That is a man who is a leader and cares about the people around him, and he is not going to let a terrorist or an enemy take him down or take his allies down. Can you imagine? Could you see how the nation might want to have that soldier? Can you see that? They might say, well, yeah, we got a president, but, we don't like him. We like that guy. You guys see, that's a modern day application of what? What's going on here, right? Can you see why some of these people would be willing to even get up and go assemble themselves with him? Martin Luther King, you guys remember the March on Washington? Was Martin Luther King the president of the United States? He was just an ordinary citizen, right? What in the world happened with that March on Washington? How many people were there? Like 20? Oh yeah, a whole lot of people. Why?
Because he wanted to pass civil rights.
They rallied around him because they believed in his cause, right? What about Mohandas or I think it's Gandhi? I'll just say Gandhi. What about Gandhi? That dude starved himself. He didn't fight. He didn't lead marches and all that stuff. He would just sit there and he'd say, okay, well, my government, the government is being oppressive and doing things they shouldn't do, so I'm just going to starve myself until they change. And what did people do? They followed him in droves. Millions of people. Just one guy. They stood up to their own government. What about America in the colonial days? I mean, a few people said, I'm tired of this. And they started chucking the tea. They were like, I'm tired of the taxes. They just, they said, I'm done with it. And they started doing what with the tea in Boston? What does that mean? What does throwing a bunch of boxes of tea into the ocean mean? Nothing. But unless there was a meaning behind it, and was there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what did that start?
The American Revolution.
Yeah. See what I mean?
Which is like our governor. His son and nephew is against him. He's for homosexuality, but his cousin, his kinfolks is in the law. But they are against it, so they called me and I told them I didn't have no way to go to the law.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in homosexuality, and I told them plain out.
Right. Now, we need to be standing up in this country. We were talking about this stuff on the way here this morning. Especially in the church, we need to be standing up and doing stuff. We need to be. I'm going to run a risk here, but I'm going to do it anyway.
If we don't do it, don't play on somebody else to do it, because
When-
we're going to do it either.
I'm going to ask a question, and I want people in here. I want everybody to answer it, accordingly. And I have realized this myself, and so I'm trying to do what I can to change this about my own life. But Frank, when do you see Zeke and Sharon during the week? Zeke and Sharon, when do y'all see Rick and Nancy?
Sundays and Wednesdays.
I
See them every once in a while out at Walmart.
Right.
Sister Betty, when do you see Perry and his wife Donna?
Here in
Hang on,
church,
he's gonna explain it.
here in church, but I always call and check food and tell them I miss them.
You do?
I do, and I tell them if they sick, if they need, just give me a call.
And I believe that. I believe that because I know who you are and I know how you do things. Layne, when do you call and talk to Frank? When do you just call and ask how Sister Sue is doing? Just call. Layne, when do you do that? You see what I'm getting at? We need to be changed. These people did what for David? They got up they got their butts out of their chairs and they went to the border of their enemy state and they rallied around a guy who was not their king to stand up to their king. What do the people in the March on Washington do? Where were they from? They were all just D.C. residents, right? No. They're from all over the country. What about Gandhi? I don't believe in his religious views, but I can see the man was effective in rallying people. What about the American Revolution? People got up and they worked together. We need to do that in this country. We need to be standing up. We can talk about it all the time, about the politics and stuff, and how Christians need to be standing up and have a united front against these homosexuality things that are being passed, the abortion things that are being. We can preach and talk about it till we're blue in the face, but we haven't even. We need to be working in our own midst. I mean, how big is Wilson?
We could get
How big of a town is Wilson? Not that big.
petition and everybody sign it.
It's not that big. I'll get there in a minute. How big is the church at Wilson? It's not that big. We can be, we need to be trying to work together. And that's not just here at Wilson. That's at Forest Hill. That's at Virginia. That's in everywhere. We need to be working harder. I need to be working harder to be a better Christian brother to y'all. We all need to be working to be the best Christian brother or best Christian sister that we can to everyone. Do you guys ever worry that if we bring a new person here and they want to study and they want to learn how to become a Christian and they start asking questions, do you guys ever worry about, well, I don't know if my answer to that question will be the same as somebody else? Do you guys ever worry about that? If you don't worry about that and you do believe that we're all going to give them the same answer, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Unity.
Huh?
Unity.
Yeah, we're supposed to be united. But if we,
But everybody's got a different view, but they mean the same thing.
that might be the case sometimes, yeah. But we need to be trying really hard to unify and be excited about being brothers and sisters in Christ and do things with each other, you know what I mean? And I'm right here. I'm standing up and talking in front of everybody, but I'm saying this because I'm right here in the same line as y'all. We all need to be doing this, and I feel bad that I've failed on that. I need to be a better Christian brother. I need to be a better example, and so hopefully, we can continue to do that. Now that we got the directory, now we can write each other cards. We know where everybody's address and phone number is. Now we can go visit each other.
It's the best place to tell somebody that if you need them in church. If you need me, I got a head saying, if you need me, I'm a click call away.
Yeah.
Or like Miss Tipper's in a hospital, I call her all the way in Memphis, and I just met her.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been so sick myself. So I put mine on a very far burner. I'm worried about somebody else.
Yeah.
More than I do myself.
And that's what we need to do. And that's why I'm really happy every time I see a Christian reaching out to another person. It makes me really happy. Now, it's not always easy, is it? Sometimes a difference of an opinion here might cause us not to even want to associate at all with a person. Same thing is, we were talking about this on the way here, sometimes we might even be afraid of associating with people who are non-Christians at all because, we don't want their influence to overtake us. But we shouldn't be worried about their influence overtaking us. We need to be trying to get together with them so that our influence overtakes them. You know what I mean?
So Miss Sue, she didn't know me. She met me,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew I wanted to go somewhere where I can grow. I looked in the phone book, but I didn't know her name.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to the grocery store, somebody said, Jimmy Lynch. So I got my phone book out again, and I called her, and I've been here ever since.
And I'm so glad that whoever it was that mentioned that did, because y'all are great friends now, aren't you?
We are sisters.
You guys ride here every
We are
single time
sisters.
together, and you guys sit together. You guys do everything
I enjoy
together.
Miss Sue. She has helped me do a lot of stuff that I couldn't tell the doctors or the family. She has been a wonderful
Mhm.
dear friend.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Go ahead.
I've had the pleasure of working with her daddy. I didn't know her then,
Mm-hmm.
and all of her uncles, and I enjoyed working with every one of them. They were good men. Of course, the men old enough to be my daddies.
Mm-hmm.
One or two of them probably old enough to be my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
But, I said, her daddy and all of her uncles.
Right.
A lot of her kinfolk around here now, that I still work with them.
Yeah.
And of course, that tells the family right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Trey, I want to be a grandtutor,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to be able to be somebody that he can look up to,
Mm-hmm.
not somebody just sitting in the pew.
Right. And that's what I'm talking, that's what we need to do. And that's why I'm so thankful for every single person in here for doing everything that you guys have for Amanda and I and for the baby. And so thank you. And I want to keep working so that, and encouraging everybody to work so that we can all do that for each other. So thank you guys. Now, we're gonna have to jump back in here real quick so that we can try to get through a few more verses before, because the Bible study period's almost over. But thank you guys for doing everything that you have. Now, let's see. We looked at verses 1 and 2, and the last place we saw was that these people that were against King Saul, because for one reason or the other, whether they were in debt or they were bitter towards him or they were in distress, they started amassing around David, right? He quickly had an army of 400 people, 400 men. In a very short time, that army grew to 600. These men were indeed a force to be reckoned with. Why?
The Lord was with David.
Not only did they have David, but David had them. And why were they a force to be reckoned with as a whole? Because what are these people? These are the people that have a reason to fight, right? These are the people that have these true or false. Which one is it? Are these the people that are just they were the ones that were drafted from the they were the ones
They're
drafted.
fighting free will. They're not paid. So free man.
So are
It's gonna
these
fight
the
different.
are these the American soldiers who are running around in the sand getting their paycheck? Because there are some, unfortunately, and I almost was a soldier. There are some soldiers in our military now that are only there so they're not in jail. There are some in there now because it's a job, and they're going to get insurance for the rest of their life. They're not. There are some soldiers in the U.S. military at all the branches that are just there just to have a job. That's sad. Are they the U.S. The atheist soldier who is just there for a job, or are these people like the Muslims who are fighting for their religion, fighting for their life, fighting because they have something to believe in? I hate that I had to just compare these Jews, these zealous Jews who wanted to make a righteous change, to Muslims. I hate that I had to do that. That's how bad our current condition is. I should be saying the opposite. But do our military, our leaders or our soldiers in general, do they really have a reason to be running around in the sand anymore out there? Do our soldiers fight with the same passion or the same drive as our enemies? No. That's sad, right?
Our enemy don't mind dying.
Have you guys noticed every single conflict since World War II has been, Jack, you were in Vietnam, right? And you did the best job you could, right? And you were a structural engineer, right? You were an engineer. You were, construction. You built Dongtam, right? The base at Dongtam. You did the best job you could. Now, were there people in your unit? Do you remember? Were there any soldiers around you that did not want to be there?
All of them.
All of them. Were there people there that didn't want to fight? But they would have, since they had to?
They had to.
Yeah, but there was a lot of people that didn't really want to be there at all, right?
Right.
And you guys know. That's the only reason why I'm able to say these things. And you guys know that I support the soldiers. Every single person that puts his or her life on the line to defend this country, I stand with them. I almost was them. But my point is this. Since World War II, have we ever been in a conflict where our people had a reason to be there, had a desire to be there?
No.
Right after 9/11 was the closest time. Right after 9/11 was people chomping at the bits. Let me at him, let me at him, let me at him. Train me, teach me how to go get them, and let me at them. Tell me who to get. Now what? 10 years later, 15 years later?
It's still going on.
Yep. And do our soldiers, our guys are tired. Our men and women are tired. They're worn out. They're running in and out of caves every day. They're getting bombed by IEDs. They're not fighting an enemy they can see. It's not like these people, very few terrorists actually wear their colors.
America's always in the war because other countries don't want to lose their people. We have lost millions.
I think if we look back at history, America really thrived when we were isolationists, where we stayed out of other people's business. But after World War II, we changed our thought process. We became everybody's big brother, and so that means we got to protect everybody. Admirable thought, but when people are forced to do something, when people are forced to fight in a war, and they don't actually have a stock in there, they don't have a horse in that race, a dog in that fight, as they say, are they going to put the same passion in? These people that David has with him are a force to be reckoned with because they have a reason to fight, right? And these people, and you guys can see the number keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger and fast. Now, these men these people came from a background that may be looked down upon. They may not have been the most, might not have been the best looking or the richest or the strongest or whatever. They might not have been the most desirable, person, but, in culture. But now what? They're definitely the most desirable type of soldier because they're willing to learn, they're willing to fight, they're willing to travel to amass their forces, and they're willing to work together. As we'll see later, they did not mistreat or steal from those who are around them in these villages. They were also valiant in combat. So we're going to see later that they were good people all around. So let's read 3 through 5, and then that'll be the end. So who read last? Frank? Okay, Jack, do you have your computer open still? Okay. Y'all have your chapter 21 open right back there? Okay, read verse 3.
Then David went from there to Mizpah of Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, "Please let my father and mother come here with you, till I know what God will do for me."
Alright, Amanda, verse 4.
And he brought them before the king of God, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hole.
Verse 5. And the prophet Gad said unto David, "Abide not in the hold, depart and get thee into the land of Judah." Then David departed and came into the forest of Hereth. So what is a hold here? What is this hold? Yeah. It's a stronghold, like a bunker today, a fortified place, right? Why would David want to get his mom and dad there if it's not going to be strong? If it's not going to be strong, right? So, Gad, G-A-D. Who was this Gad person? How you doing, brother?
I'm just fine.
Good, man.
Got a haircut.
Yeah. She got me good. She got me good. It's cold too.
Yeah. I'll be back in about 15 minutes.
Okey-doke.
Nancy's getting ready.
Okay. All right.
Thank y'all so much for being part of that.
Oh yeah.
Big headed 3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for. It's a good tool. Okay. So this Gad was a prophet who advised David as he fled from Saul. You guys 1 Samuel 22:5, and he brought God's options for punishment after David took the census of Israel. We're going to see that in 2 Samuel 24:11-14. David's going to mess up pretty badly later on, and it's going to cost a lot of people their lives immediately, like 3 days, and hundreds of thousands of people are dead, maybe tens of thousands. Anyway, this is the same prophet who's going to later come and tell David, hey, you messed up, God's going to punish you, you picked the punishment. We'll see that in 2 Samuel 24. Gad also brought God's orders to David to build an altar, apparently on the site of the future temple. 2 Samuel 24. The chronicler pointed his records of David's reign by Gad. The person who wrote Chronicles wrote about this man in Chronicles 29:29, and Gad also assisted in showing David God's plan for the temple worship in 2 Chronicles 29:25. So we see that he's hanging out. He's with this. This is the beginning of their working together. This prophet, and so we see what we read about him later is going to, we'll be able to look back here and see this is where they started working together. From the cave at Adullam, David took his people, to Mizpah in the land of Moab. And you guys remember the Moabites. Why would the king of Moab agree to care for David's parents? Possibly because his great-grandmother was a Moabite. Ruth was a Moabite. As long as David was an outlaw of Israel, the king of Moab took care of them. Interesting. Because Moab and Israel are not the same. It was not long until the prophet Gad was sent to David to tell him to go back into the land of Judah and dwell there. Did God send Gad directly to David, or did he send him through Samuel? It's not known, but this is Bob Knox saying it's not known, but one does know that the message ultimately came from God. God was in essence telling David that he was going to take care of him just where the forest of Hereth, we don't know where the forest of Hereth is, but that's where he ran to, right? After or was it Moab? Mizpah, that's right. All these city names and town names and all that, they get confusing, don't they? So, not much is known about the man himself, this Gad person. Not much is known about him. And I think that's a pretty good place to stop for right now. We'll mark verse 6 is where we're going to start next time. So we've got to one chapter again today. So that's good.
You want me to make you a copy of frankincense?
Of frankincense? Oh, we have a. Like how it's made and all that. Is that you said you had
What
some?
it's used for and all that.
Yeah, we have a little book. Amanda, do you think that there's some information in there? Yeah. You bring some information next week. Yeah, bring what you have on frankincense, and we'll talk a little bit about it too.
I thought when you bring my book, would you read it to the class, or you write it down on a piece of paper? And
Yeah,
have it
bring your book and have it
marked?
marked, and that way we can look at it. So okay, well we'll take a break and we'll resume here in a minute.